I am not a welfare guru at National Pork Board. That's Sherry Webb and Jamie Almondson, who is our, well, she's been there a year now. Jamie is our manager of animal welfare, and she is really the key person on the swine industry audit. So I'm giving this presentation that she put together, so it really ought to be her name. So if you have any more really in-depth questions or need to get a hold of resources, contact Jamie, and I'll do the best I can in telling you about this and what we're doing. And this is our overview. We're going to cover the audit. We're going to cover site assessments. We're going to cover the resources that are available, and then I'll try to answer questions. The best answers that you'll get is if you ask me questions about emergency preparedness and not welfare. So the Common Swine Industry Audit. This came out of a 2002, 13 and 14 resolution at Pork Forum. Pork Forum is the delegate body for the pork industry, and they put forth advisements and resolutions in order to help National Pork Board direct our resources to what producers want us to do. And you'll see here that what they really wanted us to do was work with the packers, industry stakeholders, to develop a common foundation for animal welfare audits. Facilitate the equivalency among the packers, and really the key, minimize the need for multiple audits on a farm that are supplying multiple packers. As in our world, the less people that come on, the less biosecurity risk you've got, and plus it's just a big pain in the butt to have auditors come on all the time and do the work. You'd really like one audit that goes across everybody that everybody will accept. And that's kind of what producers wanted, and they wanted that foundation for the audit based on our pork quality assurance and our transportation quality assurance. So the audit is in its second year. You can access it at pork.org Common Audit. The materials are all there. The instructions, the standards, the tools that you need, the corrective action template, the interactive audit tool spreadsheets. There's frequently asked questions to help answer your questions you may have. And then it points to the resources, pork quality assurance, transportation quality assurance, other fact sheets and educational materials that are out there, SOP templates, and record templates. Branding's important. You'll notice there is no branding on there. It's not a pork board deal. It's not an MPPC deal. It's not a Tyson or a Hormel, because this is an industry audit. What you see on there for branding is PACO, which is a certification organization that's blessed this audit off, which is great. But the deal is, this is supposed to be an industry-held initiative, not just Pork Board and not just somebody else. So the criteria are a bit different. There are ways that you can automatically fail, and all of them really have to do with these 5 critical areas here. If a auditor was to go, or a person was going to go on to do this, and they see any willful acts of abuse, you flunk, you fail. Same thing, if animals are not euthanized in a timely manner, you fail. If you're observing euthanasia and they're not handled humanely, you fail. And so you'll see that all of these have to do with the proper administration of euthanasia and proper welfare being provided to that animal in those type of situations. And if you fail, you flunked the whole audit right there, and you have to do corrective actions. If you look at our standards, this is hard to read because it's a big, busy slide. But the way to look at it is there's animal standards, there's facility standards, there's standards for your caretakers, and there's record standards. Where you see the little stars, those are what's already been put into the previous versions of pork quality assurance, and I'll talk about that in a second, on our new version coming out this June. And so, this particular group that got together to put together this, added in quite a few other different things that weren't in our pork quality assurance and transportation quality assurance, but you'll see there's a lot of audit standards that need to be taken into consideration. So animals, facilities, caretakers, records, then transportation, and that's load in and out, and then the food safety components. So it's a fairly comprehensive audit. And, there's always worries about, it's going to increase the time, this, that, and the other. But, from an industry perspective, I think it's definitely workable and credible for the industry. So I talked about the 5 critical criteria where you pass or fail your audit. The others, there are other categories where your score is all or nothing, and the point values run from 10, 5, 2, and 1. really, this audit, one of the values of it is it's the presentation of the benchmarks. Not only are you looking at your particular site, but with this you'll be able to compare across other pork producers to kind of see where you're at. This is important because, I mean, if I have a certain score on this audit, I don't necessarily know exactly how I stack up to other people. And, you know, packers especially are going to be interested in seeing where the suppliers that they have stack up with this particular audit. There's two sections on the scoring. There's the total section. When you add everything up, you get your total score. But there's also individual sectional scores, and that's important because if I have two farms and they score 85 on the audit, one of them may have lost the 15 points in one particular category, and the other may have lost it in another particular category or section. So it gives you an idea of where your deficiency is. So 285s may be exactly the same score, but they may have different areas where they need to actually do some corrective actions in order to get their score higher. Defining a passing score. What was interesting back with pork quality assurance was that packers came to Pork Board and said, you need to kick people out of the Pork Quality Assurance Club if they flunk. Well, the challenge with us is that by law, Pork Board, being quasi-government, a checkoff organization, we are not allowed to do anything of the sort. We cannot be the gatekeeper, the regulatory component, or the bad guys per se. And so really what ends up happening with this is that your packers have to kind of define what they feel a passing score is. And it allows the folks that ultimately need to look to their clients to see, their people that they supply to get a feeling for what is the appropriate level of passing score. So that's really an issue that, you know, we don't, as industry in Pork Board or NPPC, we're not the people that are going to decide whether a passing score is 850 or, 300. It's going to be up to the folks that ultimately have to move that product into the consumer. So PQA Plus, we have a site assessment component of that, and that's what we've been working off of for years and years and years. It's important to understand that the common industry audit was based upon PQA. I pointed out all the areas that have been added to it that are not in previous versions. If you get a site assessment in our world through the Pork Board's site assessment process, your certification is good for 3 years, your site assessment is good for 3 years. And we're going to be launching a revision of pork quality assurance this year in 2016 at World Pork Expo. The difference between pork quality assurance for 2016 versus the previous versions is that it's been updated to include everything that's in the common industry audit as well. So all those little stars for the next version of PQA, all columns will have the same stars. So basically we brought that program up to match. It's important to understand that when we do a site assessment through our Pork Board program, it's based on education. The education and benchmarking is really kind of the goal, and we measure those things and feedback to the producer so they can have continual improvement of their processes. Our assessments completed by a first or second party. We have an entire program that does that type of that trains folks to do that type of work. And we get a lot of questions that if I have a PQA Plus site assessment, does it count for the common swine industry audit? And no, it doesn't, because they're two different tools for two different things. The audit is just an objective snapshot in time. There's no educational component. It is completed by a third party to do the auditing. And if you've got an audit done and it's recently completed, does that count in our world as an assessment? No, because they're really two totally different approaches to how we're doing assessments on our world and audits for the common swine industry audit. And even with PQA being brought up to where it contains all the same audited components, you're still not going to have reciprocity. There's not going to be reciprocity across the two. So what resources we have? There are 43 state associations in the pork world. And other states have part-time producers that play that role, so we get our education out to those folks, and we also to extension at the state level. For example, Iowa pork producers will put on, or they have put on 32 producer sessions across the state, educating on the industry audit. Those are important. Those face-to-face meetings allow for all the hard questions to get answered, and our extension folks are really good at understanding the bits and pieces and details and help producers understand what the audit's all about. Development of visual resources for animal benchmarking. The Swine Medicine Educational Center at Iowa State has been working on that, and those educational components have photos and videos of all the benchmarking pieces. And then there's also the PACO Auditor Certification program that is getting developed. It's being created by Ohio State and Iowa State. And I just talked to Sherry this morning, and that's on course for that to come out sometime this summer in 2016. We've been educating producers on it through our newsletters, How to Ace an Audit article, and what are the updates for this. Since we're in the second year, it's been updated, and so what are the new updates to the audit? We've been going to the state association meetings. There's going to be Pork Academy sessions at World Pork Expo. Standard operating procedure templates, those are going to be available in the fall. And then the learning modules that are they're interactive learning modules that are being developed that will be available either through the internet or USB, short, to the point type of modules, and those should be available late this fall.